Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. Third Indian crude ship hit in the Strait of Hormuz region. Delhi lodges a strong protest over the killing of 3 Indian seafarers in the second attack. Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to participate in the G7 summit for the 7th time in France. Also set to advance tech and innovation ties with the host nation. President Donald Trump says the US will hit Iran very hard tonight, vows to assume total control of Iran's oil and gas markets and to take Kharg Island. And football fever reaches frenzied pitch. FIFA World Cup 2026 kicks off tonight, marking the start of the longest and largest edition of soccer's biggest contest. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday chaired the 11th Governing Council meeting of the NITI Aayog in New Delhi. Held under the theme Inclusive Human Development for Viksit Bharat 2047, the meeting focused on skilling, employment, governance and inclusive growth. Addressing chief ministers and senior policymakers, the PM stressed the importance of cooperative federalism and youth empowerment in achieving India's long-term development goals.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired the 11th Governing Council meeting of NITI Aayog at the Rashtrapati Bhavan Cultural Centre in New Delhi on Thursday. Held under the theme Inclusive Human Development for Viksit Bharat 2047, the meeting was attended by chief ministers, lieutenant governors, and administrators representing 28 states and 5 union territories. Notably, this was the first time chief ministers of all 28 states participated in the Governing Council meeting. Discussions focused on inclusive growth, entrepreneurship, employment generation, future ready skills, health, and nutrition as India works towards the goal of becoming a developed nation by 2047.
Our leadership, by our leadership I mean the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers, our Governing Council, they're fully aware of the fact that we need planned urbanization. And there was talk about industrial parks, which can be plug and play, where you need housing, where you need sewerage system, you need roads, schools, parks, all sorts of facilities.
Addressing the meeting, Prime Minister Modi said India's growth story continues to inspire the world despite global uncertainty and economic challenges. Stressing the importance of cooperative federalism, he said the vision of Viksit Bharat should become the collective resolve of every state, district, block, and village. The Prime Minister also highlighted India's demographic strength, saying nearly 70 crore Indians below the age of 25 constitute the country's greatest asset. He urged states to transform this demographic dividend into a development dividend through education, skilling, and capacity building initiatives. Prime Minister Modi encouraged states to create opportunities for youth and MSMEs by leveraging India's recently concluded free trade agreements and attracting investments from partner countries. He also called on states to strengthen one district, one product initiatives and leverage opportunities in defense manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and emerging sectors. Highlighting women led development as a cornerstone of Viksit Bharat, the Prime Minister urged states to ensure a safe environment for women and work towards increasing the number of Lakpati Didis from 3 crore to 6 crore. He also stressed coordinated efforts to address drug abuse and cyber fraud while urging states to promote water conservation and natural farming amid concerns related to El Nino conditions. Prime Minister Modi also emphasized the need for district level monitoring, targeted 100-day and 5-year goals, and stronger governance frameworks to achieve measurable development outcomes. Chief ministers, lieutenant governors, and administrators congratulated Prime Minister Modi on completing 12 years in office and expressed solidarity with the centre in strengthening India's resilience and global challenges. Prime Minister Modi said the discussions reflected the aspirations and experiences of states and reaffirmed that cooperation, innovation, and shared commitment would accelerate India's journey towards Viksit Bharat by 2047. Bureau Report, DD India.
So let's now talk about this extremely important meeting that takes place periodically. This was the 11th one. We have with us Deepshikha Sikarwa. She's senior editor of the Economic Times, and you were there as well for that briefing, Deepshikha. What do you think is the role really? What sort of a role has this governing council of the NITI Aayog and the NITI Aayog in general played so far in India's developmental journey ever since it came into being after the Planning Commission transformed into NITI Aayog?
So Gautam, earlier, if you remember, Planning Commission was about long-term planning, but also about grants, funds. It was also handling the planned expenditure part. That, of course, is no longer there. NITI Aayog functions as a larger, like a think tank, which is thinking long-term vision.
Yes, a policy think tank.
It's a policy think tank. And it's providing that it is still a bridge between center and the state. It supports states as well on long-term policies and inputs that it provides them. And this governing council, essentially chaired by the Prime Minister, it has chief ministers as its members. So it's a body basically bringing everyone together, Prime Minister, all Chief Minister, entire, whoever's representing the country, to work towards that single goal, development of the country, how to address the problems of the country, what can be done in terms of policy measures, long-term policy interventions, what should they be to take the country forward. So Governing Council has a very essential role because it's a platform where chief ministers and the central government is exchanging their views on what should be done for the country as a whole.
Yes, certainly. And the focus was pretty much there in terms of the theme about inclusive human development for a developed India by 2047. And the PM also talked about a monitoring framework for targeted 100-day, 5-year and 10-year plan leading up to 2047. So do you feel that this is something that will be given shape next so that the goal of developed India by 2047 is realized and there will be markers put in place for that purpose and how to go about doing it?
Yes, and if you saw the briefing on the Governing Council meeting, it was very clearly stated. This Viksit Bharat goal, and the Vice Chairman, Dr. Ashok Lahiri, he clearly explained that there is a long-term goal of Viksit Bharat, but we are working backward towards it. So there are short-term measures, very short-term measures, there are medium-term measures. So essentially, every part of it, every moving part of it can lead us to that Viksit Bharat goal. So, and Prime Minister has also alluded to 100 days and so on. Idea is to become a developed country by 2047, but also start working towards it in terms of small measures, short-term measures, medium-term measures that will take you towards that long-term goal of a developed nation. So if you see that he's laid emphasis on a lot of measures, interventions that states should look at. What are the strengths of the country? What are the concerns? What needs to be done? Like he's identified ease of doing business. He's spoken about taking it to the last mile, at the district level. Why is it important to have good governance and transparency? and ensuring that it is available, it is ensured at the last mile, at district levels, at the cutting edge level where it touches the citizens of the country.
Right. And do you feel that a major standout this time around was that all the chief ministers were present? Because we've seen in the past how this used to be an issue, but this time around there was a full house. And do you think this will also be this will also make a big difference in the days ahead?
Absolutely, Gautam. We've seen in the past that sometimes these meetings would get politicized. Some chief ministers would not come. This time it was a full house. And especially, this meeting was held in the backdrop of there's an ongoing West Asia conflict that poses, some challenges before the country. So all the states coming together, all states CM being on this platform, Prime Minister himself being there, it definitely, and we are talking about getting to the goal of Viksit Bharat 2047. So I think a lot of positive exchange of ideas today and making, all-round development, ensuring that human development remains at the center of the entire development story. Education, health, how to improve urbanization. Emphasis was on all-round sort of development of the country.
Yes, and the challenge on the agriculture front of El Nino, which has taken effect today itself, that's what the American agency NOAA has announced. That was also brought up by the Prime Minister itself, and how this challenge should be tackled too. That is also something that was talked about. Do you think that will be done effectively as well?
Yes, Prime Minister in his speech, in his address, highlighted the challenge, which is an immediate challenge before the country. While we know that the conflict is there, and that has posed a lot of challenges to the country in economic terms. But another big challenge which is coming is in form of El Nino. Because our agriculture to a large extent is monsoon dependent. How will it impact the rural productivity? How would it impact the rural economy? Going forward, demand, rural economy supports demand in a big way. So I think all these issues that concern the economy on the immediate front, I think those were flagged by the Prime Minister. The idea possibly was to elicit views and also apprise the Chief Minister, also take their inputs on what needs to be done, and to ensure that, these challenges are addressed effectively.
Well, let's hope that these plans that are put in place through these discussions in the NITI Aayog, they find fruition and they bear results for the sake of all of us, and as India is a huge contributor to global GDP as well, for the world as well. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Deepshikha.
Thank you, Gautam.
Thank you. Yeah. And still to come on DD India Newshour. UK Defence Secretary John Healey quits as Prime Minister Starmer's plans fail to keep the country safe. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says the US remains fully committed to the Western Alliance. And the World Bank says global growth is to slow to 2.5% in 2026, the slowest since pandemic due to the Iran war.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be travelling to Evian, France to participate in the 52nd G7 summit, scheduled to be held from the 15th to the 17th of this month. Secretary West V. George in the Ministry of External Affairs said that the PM is visiting France at the invitation of the French President.
The Minister will be traveling to Evian, France to participate in the 52nd G7 summit, which is to be held from 15 to 17 June, where India has been invited as a partner country. The visit will provide an opportunity for the Honorable Prime Minister to engage with the world leaders present at the G Summit on issues of importance to India as well as to the global South.
The senior diplomat also asserted that India's regular participation at G7 summits reflects global recognition of its growing role in addressing challenges related to peace, security, development and stability.
India's regular participation at the G7 summits reflects the increasing recognition of India's role and contributions in addressing global challenges relating to peace, security, development and environmental sustainability. Also at the G7, as in other international forums, including the G20 and the OAS of Global South Summit, India has consistently brought to the forefront the priorities, concerns and developmental aspirations of the Global South.
And Secretary Wells also talked about the key priorities of the G7 summit.
The G7 summit under the French presidency has chosen some key priorities for the current year. In broad terms, these are reducing excessive macroeconomic imbalances and fostering shared growth, renewing international partnerships and development solidarity, strengthening the resilience of critical mineral value chains, protecting miners online, settling major geopolitical crises, to work on the fight against organized crime and illicit flows, etc.
An additional secretary of for Europe West Division, Piyush Srivastava, noted that India and France ties have been elevated to a special global strategic partnership during President Emmanuel Macron's visit to India in February this year.
This is Prime Minister's 7th official visit to France. You may recall that President Macron visited Mumbai and Delhi in February this year for AI Impact Summit. As you all are aware, the India-France relationship was elevated to a special global strategic partnership in February 2026. During the visit to Nice, Prime Minister will hold comprehensive discussions with President Macron covering full range of areas of our partnership, as well as they will exchange views on regional and international issues of importance.
The additional secretary also said that Prime Minister Modi and President Macron will jointly inaugurate Bharat Innovates, a landmark initiative showcasing India's innovation journey to a global audience.
Prime Minister Modi will also jointly inaugurate Bharat Innovates along with President Macron. Bharat Innovates is a landmark initiative that showcases India's innovation journey to a global audience. Our startup ecosystem, deep tech startups, our digital public infrastructure, our advances in defense, space and clean energy, and contributions of Indian talent to global technology. The Prime Minister's presence with President Macron at this event is itself a significant symbol of the depth of bilateral relationship in the domain of technology and innovation, especially this year, which is we are also celebrating as India-France Year of Innovation.
So India is all set to witness a journey of transformation in the deep tech sector as the nation continues to stride forward on the path of progress with a clear vision of becoming a developed nation by the year 2047 and taking the India-France ties to a new level. The maiden edition of Bharat Innovates is all set to be hosted in France's Nice from the 14th of June. Take a look at this next report to understand more about the maiden event that is all set to bring a change where India meets the world celebrating deep tech.
साल 2026 भारत फ्रांस संबंधों के लिए एक अति विशेष वर्ष है। इसमें पीपल टू पीपल एक्सचेंज और गहरे होंगे। इंडस्ट्री टू इंडस्ट्री पार्टनरशिप का विस्तार होगा। जून 2026 में फ्रांस में भारत इनोवेट्स 2026 के तहत हम भारत के बेहतरीन टेक स्टार्टअप दुनिया के सामने रखेंगे, जो हेल्थ, क्लाइमेट, सिक्योरिटी जैसे ग्लोबल चैलेंजेस के समाधान बना रहे हैं।
India stands at a defining moment in its development journey, one where innovation is no longer merely an aspiration, but a fundamental driver of economic growth, global competitiveness and societal transformation. In Bharat's Amritkal, where the mission is to become a developed nation by the year 2047, the Government of India has launched Bharat Innovates 2026 during the India-France Year of Innovation. It is a national program of the Ministry of Education, Government of India, designed as a global accelerator for innovations from Indian higher education institutions, thereby building a long-term collaboration bridge between India's innovation ecosystem and global stakeholders. Announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 17th of February 2026 at the inauguration of the India-France Year of Innovation, the maiden event extends invitation to global leaders, CEOs, investors and universities to collaborate with India's innovation ecosystem. Bharat Innovates 2026. The maiden edition takes India's top 120 deep tech startups to Nice, France, to catalyze pilots, co-development, investments, research partnerships, manufacturing and market access, along with 15 premier Indian higher education institutions including the IITs and IISc, and 5+ scientific and strategic institutions will come together. Bharat Innovates will serve as a privileged gateway to the Indian innovation ecosystem revolving around 13 frontier technology themes. These include semiconductors, biotechnology, space and defense, healthcare and medtech, advanced computing, AI, cloud, quantum, next-gen communications, advanced materials and critical minerals, energy, sustainability and climate, smart cities and mobility, blue economy, agri and food technologies, disaster management and resilience. For global stakeholders, Bharat Innovates 2026 will provide an opportunity to build sustained engagement with India's innovation ecosystem through investor-grade deal flow, fast-track partnerships, research access, problem-to-solution bridge, global soft landing routes, R&D pipeline. As the world navigates rapid technological disruption, climate imperatives, and evolving supply chains, India is emerging not just as a participant in these changes, but as a leader shaping the future. The narrative has moved beyond Make in India to embrace a more ambitious vision. Create in India, innovate for the world.
French President Emmanuel Macron had famously said, "The question is no longer if India innovates, the question is who will innovate with India." We are at Palais d'Exposition, the venue of Bharat Innovates, a unique global platform which is going to bring together and join the ecosystems of higher education, startups and talent mobility of India and France. With camera person Aniket Dubey, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India, Nice.
Well, US-Iran tensions at the same time have surged to an extreme level despite ongoing peace efforts, as both the sides exchanged fresh strikes on Thursday, pushing an already fragile ceasefire to the brink of collapse. US President Donald Trump has now warned of attacking Iran tonight and has vowed to assume total control of Iran's oil and gas infrastructure, including the Karg Island.
A fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran came under renewed strain on Thursday as both sides exchanged fresh attacks across the region. US military launched strikes on Iranian military surveillance, communications and air defense facilities,
prompting retaliatory missile attacks by Iran on US bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. US President Donald Trump warned that further strikes could follow if Iran does not quickly agree to a deal. Posting on Truth Social, Trump said the US could hit Iran very hard on Thursday night and take control of key Iranian oil terminals if Tehran fails to agree to a peace deal. Despite the escalation, Iranian sources said negotiations have made progress, with Washington and Tehran exchanging messages on a preliminary agreements. Key sticking points include the release of billions of dollars in frozen Iranian funds, sanctions relief, and security guarantees. Meanwhile, Iran announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz until further notice, raising concerns over global energy supplies. The United States disputed claims the strategic waterway has been fully closed, saying commercial shipping was still moving through the area. United States also said it had disabled the third commercial tanker that it was allegedly attempting to violate Washington's blockade of Iranian ports. SETCOM said a U.S. aircraft struck the Guinea-Bissau flag tanker MT Jalvir in the Gulf of Oman. The conflict, which began in April and has continued despite ceasefire in April, has increased pressure on both sides to reach a lasting settlement. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DT India.
And we'll return to that story with an expert guest as well in a bit. But moving on for the time being, British Defence Secretary John Healey has resigned following a dispute with Prime Minister Starmer over military spending. In his resignation letter, Healey accused the government and the Treasury of failing to commit the resources needed to strengthen Britain's defence capabilities amid growing global security threats. The disagreement comes as talks between the Defence and Finance Ministries over increased military spending have delayed Britain's defence investment plan for months. The uncertainty has also drawn criticism from the country's defence industry, which says delays are affecting long-term security and investment planning. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte on Thursday reaffirmed that the United States remains fully committed to NATO, dismissing concerns about Washington's dedication to the alliance. Speaking alongside Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre in Brussels, Rutte said U.S. commitment is reflected daily through its military presence in Europe, leadership within NATO and support for collective defence.
The United States remains fully committed to NATO. We see that commitment every day, all over the alliance, with US troops in Europe, US leadership within the alliance, and US contributions to our collective defense.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. France is experiencing an intense early summer heat wave with temperatures reaching 38 to 39 degrees Celsius and an orange alert issued for 17 departments, including Paris. Outdoor workers are struggling under extreme conditions but adapting with measures like using ice cubes in clothing. The heat is affecting daily life across the country as authorities warn of continued higher temperatures. The world's top sumo wrestlers will compete this weekend in Paris as the Paris Sumo Tournament 2026 opens on the 13th of June. The event marks the return of professional sumo to France after 30 years. Over 60 wrestlers will participate, including Yokozuna-ranked Tomokazu and Daiki, showcasing the traditional Japanese sport on an international stage. Pope Leo XIV has greeted bishops, priests and other members of the clergy in the Cathedral of St. Anne in Las Palmas during a visit to Spain's Canary Islands. Pope Leo visited the port of Arguinguin on Gran Canaria, where he met migrants and cast a wreath into the sea in tribute to the thousands who have died trying to reach the island. And still to come on DD India Newshour. We'll be speaking with our expert guest about the deteriorating war situation in West Asia and rising threat to commercial shipping around the Strait of Hormuz. And a tripartite MOU has been signed between the Government of India, Assam and Nagaland for facilitating mineral oil operations in the Assam-Nagaland boundary areas.
Across India, human-animal encounters have now become more frequent than ever. So maybe the wild isn't as far as we think.
The Brown Bear project was launched here in 2023. Its goal is to create harmony between bears and humans.
These are the musk roses. This ancient flower is emerging as a valuable crop in Uttarakhand. Rosewater offers farmers here a high-value alternative.
And here, 1 ton of biochar, which is obtained from around 8 trees. In the international carbon credit market, this can earn upwards of $300 for each ton of biochar.
The Tamil Nadu Tribal Welfare Department teamed up with the Indian Institute of Horticultural Research. Farmers receive free seeds, fertilizers and machinery, along with training in crop management.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Let's now take you across getting all the recent developments in perspective where West Asia is concerned, where not only Donald Trump is threatening to take over the entire oil infrastructure in Iran by hitting it very hard tonight itself, to the kind of danger commercial shipping is now facing in the waters around the Strait of Hormuz. We have with us Dr. Kinra Jahangir. He's a well-known West Asia expert from the OP Jindal Global University. Dr. Jahangir, welcome. What do you make of what's happening in terms of, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the attacks on commercial shipping? Indian sailors have been killed, 3 of them as well, and yet we have the attacks still going on. And at the same time, Donald Trump seems to be upping the ante where Iran itself is concerned.
Good evening, Gautam. It seems to be a complete chaos. Diplomacy has not been yet suspended. Both the parties have said we are talking. Their negotiations are not yet, overruled. But Donald Trump, surprisingly, after stopping Israel from any further escalation, has now chosen to escalate himself. It means to me one thing, that he is desperate, that this is the last hour of the negotiations, and he wants to give another threatening brinkmanship kind of a message to Tehran that they will have to negotiate more on his terms. Looking at it objectively, from not from his perspective, and if you look at it from others' perspective, it seems like he's mitigating the defeat. He does know that the moment the deal will be signed, his scrutiny, or he will be scrutinized very much within America as well as globally. What has he achieved, and on what terms has he signed a deal with Tehran? So I think he's creating this kind of a fog, a chaos, to make the world give a relief. The moment he will sign the deal, whatever that deal will be a matter of great, let's say, thanks that, okay, whatever the war is, it has now come to a conclusion.
Right. Now, Iran has said, its foreign ministry, that with such kind of actions, and it only talked about actions, not the latest threat that Donald Trump has issued, it has rendered the ceasefire, practically meaningless, and yet we saw a delegation which was from Qatar coming back from Tehran as well. So that back and forth is still going on.
That's what makes me very optimistic about this last phase of escalation. I do think that negotiations have not been suspended. There were all excuses for Donald Trump to suspend it. He could have suspended it even 2 weeks before, when Tehran attacked Bahrain and other regional Arab American bases in the region. But I think he does want to make a statement with his last kind of an escalation steps. Tehran for sure doesn't want to give any signal of weakening, meaning the rhetorics are very up. But if you look at the news from inside Tehran, There is also complete control of what comes out of the Iranian territory to the global audience. But for sure, the regime is counting its last days to close this deal and declare a victory. At the end of whatever the deal will be, I think Iran and America will both declare victory for themselves. Israel, not so much, because Israel has been really sidelined. As far as your question about India concerned, and certainly the grave case of death of the 3 sailors, I think Donald Trump, and this is the problem with his leadership for the rest of the world, he doesn't take into account allies and the concerns of the others that are not involved in this war. And he has really pushed not only the international trade into a very, very grim phase, for which it will take another 6-8 months to come back to normal. But he's also getting allies very stressed. India's relations with Israel and India's relations with America have been very stable, even when India has borne the cost of this war in innumerable ways. India hasn't criticized American positions. India
has not. It's clear that Donald Trump doesn't really care about consequences when he says that he loves the inflation which went up in the US. But at the same time, he's spoken to Fox News as well on the question of Kharg Island, wondering whether the country has a stomach to do it because it means a ground operation. So will Trump ultimately do it? Will he up the ante to the extent that he's threatened and take Kharg Island and control of Iran's oil and gas, just like he mentioned Venezuela in that context as well?
No, that's just a gamble of the language here. We understand very clearly. He wanted to threaten Iran by saying, I will burn all the bridges and I will attack even the electric installations. He realizes that will earn him a very bad name and very bad legacy. So he doesn't want to harm the Iranian civilians. For last, let's say, since February 28, he has been trying to find a squeezing point with which he can really get a bargain out of Tehran. And Kharg Island seems to be the only squeezing point. But as you pointed out rightly, by all American estimates, not the other estimates, by all American estimates, that cannot be done just by naval force and air strikes. So I think he does want to, in a way, up the rhetoric. But I think it's very obvious his threats are more symbolic than substantial.
All right. Well, let's see what happens tonight, and let's see what kind of an opportunity does it present for us to talk about this really terrible situation. Yes, you wanted to add something?
If I can add one thing. Being in the region, I mean, it's really sensitive for the Arab countries, and they are also against any kind of escalation. So Donald Trump, may not care about Indian sailors, but he would very much care about the Gulf countries and the American air bases. And they are really against this escalation, as we can see from their countless statements.
Let's see, because the moment he goes all out against Iran, Iran will go all out against the Gulf nations that host American bases as well. Iran has been doing that of late. It did that much earlier in the conflict as well. It was paused for a while and then it has resumed because the US has been hitting it. Let's see what happens tonight. Thanks a lot for joining us and talking about it, Dr. Jahangir.
Thank you.
Now, India has strongly protested the attack on MT Seafarer carrying Indian crew members, resulting in the tragic death of 3 seafarers amid escalating tensions in the Gulf region, as another vessel, MT Jalveer, reported an onboard fire of Oman. All 20 Indian sailors aboard were brought to safety.
India has summoned the US charter affair and lodged a strong protest over the attack on a commercial vessel, MT Seafarer, carrying Indian crew members. The Ministry of External Affairs condemned the strike, describing repeated attacks on merchant shipping as deeply concerning and a consequence of the escalating conflict in the region. The MEA also reiterated India's call for immediate de-escalation.
We condemned the attack on a ship off the coast of Oman, in which unfortunately we lost 3 Indian nationals. We had summoned the US CDA here to register a strong protest. The continuing incidents of attacks on shipping in the region are deeply worrisome and a direct result of the ongoing conflict in the region. These attacks must cease and end, and we also call for dialogue and diplomacy so that we can have an early return to peace and stability in the region.
Even as diplomatic efforts continued, another maritime emergency emerged. The MT Jalveer, carrying 20 Indian sailors, reported a fire in its engine room off Oman's Shinas port. The Indian embassy in Muscat said evacuation efforts were being coordinated with the Royal Navy of Oman. All 20 crew members have been confirmed safe.
Bitumen tanker MT Jalveer was reportedly involved in a maritime security incident in the vicinity of Shinia port, Oman. The vessel has 20 Indian seafarers on board and all of them are reported to be safe. No casualty or injuries have reported.
Meanwhile, the search operation linked to the MT Setabelo incident has come to a tragic end. On Thursday, Union Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Sarbananda Sonowal, confirmed that the bodies of all 3 missing Indian seafarers had been recovered. The minister expressed condolences to the bereaved families and assured all possible assistance from the Government of India. Amid rising tensions in the Gulf region, Indian seafarers have found themselves increasingly vulnerable to the fallout of the conflict. On June the 8th, the MT Marivex, carrying 24 Indian crew members, was involved in an incident off the coast of Oman. All 24 sailors were rescued with assistance from Omani authorities. Within 48 hours, a second vessel, the MT Setabelo, also carrying 24 Indians, came under attack in the Gulf of Oman. The US military said it carried out a precision strike after the vessel allegedly failed to comply with its instructions, a claim disputed by the ship's management. As the conflict continues to widen and maritime security concerns grow, India has assured repatriation assistance and support to the affected families. But for the families of Aditya Sharma, Shivananda Chaurasia and Patnala Suresh, the tragedy is deeply personal. Divya Shekhar's report for DD India.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has become the country's longest continuously serving elected Premier, marking 12 years at the helm of the central government. A journey dedicated to trust, development and public welfare. Now, as Prime Minister Modi's government completes 12 years, India's journey in science and technology has emerged as one of its defining achievements. From successful space missions to building indigenous AI models, the country has made significant strides towards technological self-reliance. Our next report looks at how these initiatives are shaping India's emergence as a global power in science and technology.
India, which once depended on the technologies of the world, is today creating the technologies of the future itself. Over the last 12 years, India has taken a remarkable leap in the fields of science and technology that has surprised the world. A country that once depended on other nations for space technology and chip manufacturing has now become the first nation to reach the moon's south pole, is preparing its own human spaceflight mission, and is moving ahead towards becoming a global power in artificial intelligence and semiconductors. Several major scientific initiatives launched under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi have helped India move from being a technology consumer to becoming a technology creator. So let us take you on an exciting journey through science and technology and show you the major achievements India has accomplished over the last 12 years.
आप सभी साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी की दुनिया से जुड़े लोग इन सवालों से भी आगे जाकर नई संभावनाएं खोजेंगे। अगर आपके पास आइडियाज है तो मैं आपके साथ हूं। हमारी सरकार रिसर्च को फंड और साइंटिस्ट को अपॉर्चुनिटी देने के लिए ही पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है।
Among India's greatest scientific achievements, the Chandrayaan and Gaganyaan missions of ISRO stand at the top. Chandrayaan 3 created history by landing near the moon's south pole. Vikram lander and Pragyan rover carried out important scientific experiments on the lunar surface. The Chandrayaan 2 orbiter continues to provide valuable data from the moon. Gaganyaan is India's first indigenous human spaceflight mission. Several key crew escape, parachute, and safety tests have been successfully completed for the mission. Now, if we talk about the world of technology, the India Semiconductor Mission has emerged as the strongest foundation of India's digital self-reliance. The India Semiconductor Mission was launched in December 2021. The government announced an incentive package worth 76,000 crore rupees for the sector. Investments exceeding 1.6 lakh crore rupees have been approved under the mission. 10 major semiconductor projects are currently being deployed across the country. India aims to significantly increase domestic chip manufacturing capabilities. Along with this, thousands of engineers are being trained through the CHIPS to Starter program, AICTE semiconductor courses, and NIELIT labs. This has laid the foundation for the semiconductor ecosystem, which appears set to realize the dream of a strong, sustainable, and self-reliant India in the years to come. India has also made a major leap in the field of artificial intelligence or AI. The India AI mission was launched in March 2024. The mission has been allocated a budget of nearly 10,372 crore rupees. More than 38,000 GPUs have been made available for researchers and startups. India is developing indigenous AI models through selected companies and institutions. The AI Coach platform is strengthening the country's AI ecosystem with datasets and AI models. Recently, the India AI Impact Summit 2026, held in February, proved to be historic, and the world appreciated India's AI models. In addition, the government is also developing AI applications for sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, cybersecurity, and education. This is why AI is no longer only the domain of foreign companies. India too is rapidly securing its place in the global AI race. Apart from this, in the last few years, India has also made rapid progress in several areas.
अब समय है कि हम इमर्जिंग एरियाज में दो गुनी ऊर्जा से काम करें। ये विकसित भारत के हमारे लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति के लिए भी बहुत अहम है।
India is advancing research and innovation through the National Quantum Mission. The country has witnessed one of the world's fastest 5G network expansions. India has become the world's largest digital payments ecosystem. Significant progress has been achieved in drone technology and biotechnology. The Deep Ocean Mission is strengthening India's capabilities in future scientific research. Programs such as the National Quantum Mission and the Deep Ocean Mission reflect India's strong preparation in future technologies. At last but not the least, over the last 12 years, India has not merely progressed in the field of science and technology, it has created a new identity for itself. From the moon to chip manufacturing, from artificial intelligence to quantum computing, India is moving steadily towards leadership in the technologies of the future. This is why today's India is emerging before the world not only as a digital India, but also as a scientific India and an innovative India. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held talks with his Finnish counterpart Elina Valtonen during his official visit to Finland on Thursday. In a post on X, the minister said the discussions focused on expanding cooperation in startups, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, critical minerals, quantum technologies, 6G, clean energy and space, along with strengthening trade and investment ties and maintaining momentum in political engagement between the two countries. He added that he is looking forward to engaging with the Finnish leadership at the Kultaranta talks later in the day. A tripartite memorandum of understanding for the exploration and production of crude oil and natural gas along the Assam-Nagaland border has been signed in New Delhi on Thursday in the presence of Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Assam Chief Minister Hemant Biswa Sarma and Nagaland Chief Minister Deepu Rio. Calling it a historic moment, the Home Minister said the agreement reflects the spirit and cooperative federalism and will significantly boost oil and gas exploration in the northeast. The MOU is expected to increase extraction capacity in the region by more than tenfold and strengthen India's energy security while reducing dependence on imports. The Home Minister noted that the agreement could open new opportunities for mineral exploration and economic growth in Assam and Nagaland. Let's get you some more updates from the business world. The World Bank has cut its global growth forecast for 2026 to 2.5%, the lowest level since the COVID-19 pandemic, warning that the ongoing conflict in the West Asian region is driving up energy prices, fueling inflation and slowing economic activity worldwide. The lender said developing nations are being hit hardest and announced up to $60 billion in immediate support, with additional funding available if conditions worsen. The report also warned that prolonged disruptions to energy and fertilizer supplies could further weaken growth and worsen food insecurity, particularly in Africa and conflict-affected regions. Calling the 2020s a potential lost decade for many developing economies, the World Bank urged coordinated global action and an end to ongoing conflicts to prevent deeper economic and humanitarian crises. The European Central Bank has raised its inflation forecasts and lowered its growth expectations for this year, citing concerns that the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz could prolong the recent surge in global energy prices. ECB President Christine Lagarde announced revised projections as policymakers assess the economic impact of higher energy costs and continued uncertainty in global markets.
In the baseline of the new Eurosystem staff projections, headline inflation is expected to average 3% in 26, 2.3% in 27, and 2% in 28. For inflation excluding energy and food, the baseline foresees an average of 2.5% in 26 and 27, and 2.2% in 28.
Well, the ECB has raised its benchmark interest rate to 2.25% for the first time since 2023 as well. Rawalkot in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir witnessed another tragic day of bloodshed as Pakistani army personnel and rangers opened fire on thousands of unarmed protesters gathered in the city's Eidgah ground. According to local accounts, security forces opened fire on demonstrators, triggering chaos and panic. Claims from the region suggest multiple fatalities and injuries, though figures have not been independently verified. Between 60 to 70,000 people had assembled in Rawalkot, where Pakistani forces unleashed gunfire on the crowd without warning. Men, women and young people who had come to raise their voices against economic hardship suddenly found themselves running for their lives. Despite the bloodshed, protesters have refused to abandon their movement. Nepal has clarified that imports of Indian mangoes remain uninterrupted, dismissing reports suggesting restrictions on the popular seasonal fruit. Authorities said mango varieties such as Alfonso, Kesar, Langra, Dashehri, Totapuri and Amrapali continue to enter the country through major border points subject to phytosanitary certification requirements. Nepal's National Plant Quarantine and Pesticide Management Center said no ban has been imposed on Indian mango imports. The agency further explained that imports are being regulated under standard biosecurity measures, including pest-free certification and hot water treatment, while import permits and release orders continue to be issued based on certificates provided by India's National Plant Protection Organization. And let's talk about sports as the FIFA World Cup 2026 gets underway at the iconic Mexico City Stadium, with co-hosts Mexico taking on South Africa in the opening Group A fixture. Now, this fixture marks the start of the largest World Cup in history, featuring 48 teams with 104 matches set to be played across the United States, Canada and Mexico. Teams are divided into 12 groups of 4. The top 2 teams from each group, along with the 8 best third-place teams, will move to the round of 32. And from there, the tournament will follow a knockout format until the final, which will be played at the New Jersey Stadium in New York. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Newshour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Newshour.